Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Gaudet in the Entitled Parents subreddit. The post is titled, "Mom felt entitled to my wish after I was diagnosed and survived cancer. Today, at 29, I am 13 years in remission from cancer. I had a very aggressive type with less than a 20% chance of survival for the first 5 years. But that's not the story I'm here to share. It's just relevant background information. When I was 16, I qualified for Make-A-Wish. I had explored various potential wishes, destination vacations, meeting my favorite band, and getting electronics. Once the idea of traveling somewhere warm came up, my mom was convinced that was what would happen with my wish. The discussion of Barbados arose, and that's what she set her mind on. However, I was still undecided, and after discussing it with my Make-A-Wish correspondent, I wanted to meet my favorite band. We would not have been able to go to the Caribbean due to costs, but we could have still gone somewhere warm and out of the country. There were discussions about Florida, California, or even Hawaii as a destination to meet the band. I wrote a letter to the band explaining how listening to them helped me through treatment. My correspondent mailed it to the band's managers, who were preparing to schedule time for my wish. When I told my mom what I wanted and the plan to meet the band, she became furious. She ranted about how she deserved this trip as much as I do because she was there for me the entire time. She declared that if I wanted to do anything besides going to Barbados, I could find another adult to supervise the trip because neither she nor my stepfather would join me since it wasn't what she wanted. She then told me to pack my bags and stay at my dad's place until I came to my senses and told Make-A-Wish that we were going to Barbados. I spent over a month at my dad's with my Make-A-Wish correspondent trying to convince me to pursue my original wish several times before I eventually gave in to my mom's demands. My parents made a compromise with me, saying they'd drive me to the band's concert in Toronto if I paid for the entire trip. Naive 17-year-old me thought this was a great idea. I'd get to see the band in concert and make my parents happy. It cost a lot and my parents complained the whole time, but at least I'd seen them perform. Occasionally, when the Barbados trip comes up, my mom portrays herself as the victim, saying, "Could you imagine if you'd gone through with it and we'd missed out on going to Barbados? You would have gone with someone else's mom and left us behind. I would never have forgiven you if you'd done that." To this day, I am still a huge fan of that band. They were on hiatus for a while but came back, and this whole situation really sticks in my mind, especially when I see them performing on shows and during their 2 tours since their return. Yes, I saw them in concert and it was a great time, but I could have physically met them and gone to a concert through Make-A-Wish while traveling to another country without having to pay out of pocket for the experience. All of this happened because my mom felt entitled to make my wish about her rather than focusing on what I wanted as the actual recipient. I understand that she didn't care to meet the band herself, but there could have been many opportunities available aside from just that. I nearly died. It shouldn't have been a question of doing whatever I wanted for my wish, especially given the extremely high chance of my cancer returning. Edit to add, many people have asked if I am still in contact with her. There are too many questions to answer individually, but yes, we do still have a relationship. There have been other things that she and my stepdad have done since this major incident, but nothing compares to what she did regarding that trip. Part of the reason I maintain contact is so my son can have a relationship with them, but I limit personal conversations with them. Edit 2, the band was the Jonas Brothers. The youngest of the 3, Nick, has type 1 diabetes. He wrote a song called A Little Bit Longer about his struggle when he was diagnosed between ages 12 and 14. It was released a month before I was diagnosed with cancer, and it resonated with me during difficult days. Edit 3, thank you everyone for all the awards. I didn't think this post would blow up so much. I just wanted to share this situation for a long time because it has always bothered me. User Lungus said, "Your mom is a real piece of work. Every time that trip is mentioned, you should express how much you hated having to change your trip to appease her entitled attitude. But you did it because she's acting like a giant baby." User Desu said, "Holy cow, I am so sorry you were in that situation and I'm so happy you survived. I just can't wrap my head around what your mother was thinking. I mean, this very well could have been the last thing you ever did, so why wouldn't it be all about you and what you wanted? Personally, I would have gone no contact with her at some point." User Silent Bob said, "So I've been told that I can be incredibly petty when I choose to be, so I understand if you choose not to do this. But I swear to God, if I were in your shoes, every time your mom made that comment about if we'd missed out on going to Barbados, I would look her dead in the eye and say, I know, right? How crazy of me at the age of 16 to think that, as the one suffering from a near-terminal diagnosis, I would get to choose the wish I wanted fulfilled. Thank goodness I had you there to show me that the true intention of the wish was to make you happy, and then have to hear you complain about it for the next 10 years anyway." Then I just hold eye contact until she either shut up or walked away. This honestly makes me so sad and angry. I know you did the right thing for yourself at the time, and I understand that there's no going back and changing things, but I truly wish your mother would have been a mother in that moment instead of a selfish prick. This next post was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Fuzzy French. The post is titled AITAH for wishing that my stepmom died in a car accident. For some background, my dad cheated on my mom with my stepmom. They ultimately got divorced, which was really hard on our family. My mom ended up moving back to her home country in Europe, while my twin sister and I had to stay with our dad. I am 17 and I live with my dad, my stepmom, and my younger brothers. Last year in September, my twin sister and I had a volleyball game at school. My dad was usually the one who picked us up from our games and practices, but he couldn't that night because he was out of town. Our stepmom had to come pick us up instead. She arrived an hour late because she took a nap and forgot about us. As soon as we got in the car, she started ranting about how we disturbed her nap. Long story short, she ran a stop sign at an intersection and we got into a horrible accident. Most of that night was a blur, but I remember the last few minutes before the crash. I was hospitalized for weeks, but my twin sister passed away that night. I can't describe how I feel. I lost my best friend with whom I shared everything. My sister knew exactly how I felt about everything because we experienced life together. Now, I constantly feel like a zombie. I'm not depressed, but I often imagine or think about ending my own life because living is unbearable without my sister. Last night, my stepmom made a special dinner for her birthday. After the accident, I stopped eating dinner with the rest of my family. It just feels wrong to eat without my sister at the table, so I eat alone in my room. My dad insisted that I eat with them downstairs. I protested, but he begged me. Dinner started off normally. My stepmom announced to my brothers and me that she was pregnant. My brothers were really happy and asked about the gender of the baby. My stepmom excitedly said that it was a girl. They kept talking about how excited they were to get a younger sister and mentioned how they could help decorate her nursery. I looked up and asked her which room would be the nursery. She excitedly said that she was going to use my twin sister's room and mentioned how she had already started removing things from her room in the morning and putting them in the attic. I asked her why she didn't bother telling me before she went ahead and started moving my sister's stuff. It was a big deal to me because aside from me, no one has been in her room since she passed away. Sometimes when I miss her, I sit in her room to feel closer to her, and some nights I fall asleep there. My stepmom got really defensive and said that I needed to accept that she was having a baby and needed the empty room. I told her that I understood she was pregnant, but a heads up would have been nice before she started removing things from my sister's room. She looked at me and said that she didn't need to tell me anything because she was the mother of the household. She claimed she was doing what was best for her baby and didn't need my negativity. I stayed silent, trying to tune her out, but I snapped when she mentioned how I needed to accept my sister's death and move on. She said something along the lines of, "Your twin passed away and you need to accept that. It's hard, but you've got your father, your brothers, and me. Plus, you're getting a new sister who you can build an even stronger relationship with. You need to move on because nothing will bring twin sister back." I knew I was getting angry, so I excused myself and left the table. My dad started yelling about how I was being dramatic and that I needed to come back or I'd be grounded. I continued walking away until my stepmom said, "I don't understand what her problem is. She couldn't even bother to be happy about my pregnancy, but she's angry about me moving things out of an unoccupied bedroom." I turned around and stared at her in disbelief. My stepmom often acts like my twin sister never existed. For example, 2 months ago, I was at Walmart with my dad and stepmom. We were buying a birthday present for my younger brother when they got into a conversation with an older man. I wasn't paying much attention, but the old man asked my dad how many kids he had. My dad said he had 4 kids, but my stepmom responded by saying no, 3. She does stuff like that all the time, which drives me insane. I started going off on her, and she sat there quietly. I mentioned how she's been been the cause of every major traumatic event in my life. I reminded her that she knowingly started sleeping with a married man. She knew he had a wife and kids, but she didn't care. She broke up my family, sending my mom into a deep depression that ultimately led her to move away. Then I reminded her that she was too preoccupied with ranting about how we disturbed her nap, which ultimately led to a car accident that had me hospitalized for weeks. I lost my twin sister because of her carelessness. I told her that she had no right to just take things out of my sister's room. I wasn't angry about her new baby. I was upset that she started boxing up and removing items from my sister's room without even telling me in advance. Finally, I told her that it was cruel of her to tell me to move on from the traumatic death of my twin sister. She argued back that the accident happened and that I was living in the past. She said everything happens for a reason and that God works in mysterious ways. I straight up asked her if she thought that my sister's death could not have been avoided, and she responded by saying it was just unlucky fate. I reminded her that my sister would be alive if she hadn't been distracted. My stepmom then told me that I make her feel like I want her to die instead. I stayed silent while she kept asking me if she was correct. When I turned to walk away, my stepmom grabbed my arm. I asked her to let go, but she kept saying, "You want me dead, don't you?" I stayed silent again, but she kept repeating it. Eventually, I got mad and truthfully told her that my life would have been easier that way. She started crying and my dad called me heartless. A few minutes later, I did apologize, but my dad snapped and asked me to leave my stepmom alone. Since then, my dad has been giving me the silent treatment while my stepmom just avoids me. User Jim Mapp said NTA. Your stepmom learned an important lesson. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. The way your stepmom acts about your deceased sister strikes me as cold and insensitive. I don't see anything wrong with what you said. User JTD said, you are NTA, your stepmother is an AH, but your father is the biggest AH for not standing up for his own child who is suffering, especially when that suffering is compounded by his irresponsible mistress. As a fellow twin, you have my condolences. I can't imagine what you are going through right now, but you are in my thoughts. To this user, Boeing said, Dad has been led around by this woman for years, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And under this user, Knight Rider said, exactly. Her dad is just as culpable. First, he chooses to cheat on his first wife with this woman, not caring that he's breaking her heart. Now, his second wife didn't just take his daughter's life, she's trying to act like his daughter never existed. He callously goes along with it whenever she denies that his daughter existed. And then he has the nerve to act like his other daughter is the bad guy? Seriously, this man is a real piece of work. His wife is evil, but he's willingly allowing her to do this. Update. I'm sorry it took so long to get back to everyone, but a lot has happened in the last few months. To start, thank you all for the overwhelming support. I wasn't able to read most of the responses to my last post because I went to sleep right after posting it. When I woke up, there were several viral TikTok videos about my situation. I didn't know about any of that, but my stepmom's younger sister saw one of the Reddit videos and sent it to their family group chat. My stepmom saw the video and lost it when she read the comments. She took my phone and laptop and grounded me right after I woke up. When my dad got home from work, he backed her up. Her entire family was furious, and my dad got yelled at by her parents. They tried to force me to take the post down, but I wouldn't give them my phone's password, so there was little they could do about that. They kept calling me insensitive and disrespectful for bringing strangers into a private matter. As part of my punishment, I wasn't allowed to leave my room. They wouldn't let me use my phone or laptop to communicate with my mom at all. They said I could get those privileges back after they deemed that I had learned my lesson. A week after everything, my stepmom lost her baby and she blamed me for it. She said I was causing the entire family too much stress. She just kept yelling at me that I did this to her, and she refused to even glance in my direction. She had a huge argument with my dad about how she wanted me gone. She ended up staying with her parents for the night. My stepmom even tried to turn my younger brothers against me, and it worked with the older one. My dad tried to convince me to apologize to her, but I didn't even understand what I would be apologizing for. His wife's pregnancy was already high risk due to many other issues. She had miscarried 3 babies in the past 2 years. I don't know anything about her medical health, but I once overheard her talking on the phone about an abnormality she had that caused her to lose her other babies. After that, I fell into a really bad place mentally. 4 days after everything happened with my family, I tried to take my life. My dad and stepmom went out with my brothers, and I attempted to overdose on Benadryl. It was the most painful experience of my life. I didn't feel anything at first, but eventually I passed out. I don't know how long I was out, but when I woke up, I started throwing up. I was in so much pain and could barely move. I can't remember much, but I think I passed out again. My little brother found me passed out and covered in vomit, and my dad ended up calling 911. I ended up in the ER. I can't remember everything because it was a blur, but I had to drink activated charcoal. They ran a bunch of tests, drew my blood, and gave me an IV. I was hallucinating for hours and woke up in a different hospital. I lied to my doctors about everything because I didn't want to get in trouble, but I was still involuntarily sent to a psychiatric hospital anyway. My dad was against it, but I was there for a little over a week. I got into a lot of trouble for attempting to take my life. My dad didn't speak to me for a week after I came home. While I was gone, my dad read all my journals where I wrote about how much I hated myself, my life, and wished my sister was still alive. He also found out that I was hurting myself by reading it. He eventually made me read all the pages out loud to him, my stepmom, and my pastor. My pastor then gave me a 3-hour lesson on letting go of anger and the past. They also took away my door because I lost that privilege. My stepmom made it verbally known that she didn't want me there anymore. My dad told me that he was going to send me to a behavioral camp/teen residential program for troubled kids since I tried to take my life. I still didn't have any of my electronics back, and they refused to leave me alone for extended periods of time. So I had to stay in the living room all day and could only go to my room when it was time for bed. My dad made me keep my door open while I showered so my stepmom could monitor me. I wasn't allowed to play volleyball this year as a punishment, which really sucked. I just felt so stuck, and I knew that I'd be sent away to one of those awful camps. I've heard so many bad stories about them, so I took my stepmom's iPad in the middle of the night. I was able to call my best friend. I explained everything to her. She told her parents, and they agreed to help me. I packed a few bags, took a bunch of things that reminded me of my sister, and planned to leave 3 nights later. I was able to get my birth certificate and social security card because I told my stepmom I needed them for a job interview at our church's daycare. She surprisingly gave them to me. For 2 nights, my best friend would drive to my house at around 3 a.m. to get some of my things and my sister's old stuff. On the 3rd night, I finally found where my dad was keeping my phone and laptop, so I took them back. I left with my best friend that night. I don't want to accidentally incriminate anyone, so I can't say too much about what happened the night I left or who I was with afterward. My dad tried to press charges on several people, but that went nowhere. He gave up on trying to get me to go home because my stepmom was happy with me gone anyway. It's been 3 months since I left, and I'm happy to say that I'm safe. I haven't heard from my dad or his wife in weeks. From what I've heard, they're not on good terms. I'm currently staying with my mom's cousin, but once I graduate high school, I plan on moving to Europe to be closer to my mom. I turned 18 today. I'm happy that I no longer have to legally see my dad again. Also, thank you to those who personally messaged me, gave me legal advice, or even suggested I look into pursuing a lawsuit against my stepmother. Please excuse any spelling errors. This brought back a lot of negative emotions. Final update. My twin sister was killed almost 2 years ago in a car accident caused by my stepmother. My life has been a living hell since, and I've tried to find the will to keep going, but I'm so tired. I think of her every single day, and everything reminds me of her. I remind myself of her just by looking in the damn mirror. I don't want to forget about her, but it just hurts so much being constantly reminded that she is gone. My sister was such a beautiful soul. I hate that her last moments on earth were so horrible. Before she passed, I hadn't been away from her for more than 12 hours. I'd give anything just to see her again. I can't explain how I feel. I don't necessarily want to die, but I don't want to be here anymore. Every day is a blur, and I feel like I'm just going through the motions. The only thing keeping me alive is my mom. She's been doing really well with staying sober, but she'd probably return to alcoholism if I ended my life. I just don't know how long I can keep staying for her. I know how selfish it is of me to even be thinking of it, but I'm in pain all the time. I just want it to stop and nothing helps. User Clearly a Cat said, "It sounds like you need to seek some support for your mental health. What you've gone through is not a small thing, it is life-changing and traumatizing. Please reach out to a therapist and consider looking for grief support groups in your area. I don't know you, but I have a sister, and I know that if I died or she died, we would want the other to be happy and healthy. I truly hope you can find some peace. I know that's what she would want for you. Pandora said, grief is such a huge, obnoxious, and cruel jerk. It punishes us for losing the people we love and then keeps popping up to punish us in new, mean ways when we least expect it. You're not alone, and you need to get some help from a therapist, a grief group, family, friends, or all of those places. I'm not going to minimize how you feel, it's terrible, but you are worth staying alive for. You deserve all the love and care you give to your sister and your mom. User numero uno said, your sister would not have wanted you to hurt yourself. She loved you. She would have wanted you to be happy and to remember the good moments you shared. Please consider honoring her by living your best life. I agree. Your mom wouldn't do well with both of you gone. Please seek medical services for your mind and body to help you heal from your loss. Life will get better with treatment and time. Blessings. User Mindless Scientist said, I lost my sister. It hurt so bad. She wasn't my twin, but we shared a room, a love for gymnastics, and she was my best friend. She died slowly from cancer, so we had time to say our goodbyes. She told me she wanted me to be happy. She told me she loves me. I know your sister felt the same. She would be so upset knowing her death has caused you this horrible pain. It is the worst pain in the world. But ask yourself what she would want. I'm sure it's not to end yourself. It took me 6 years of depression and pain to seek help. Do not wait. Get on medication. They will help you transition through this horrible time until you can feel normal again. And then honor your sister by living your life to the fullest and happiest you can. She will be looking down on you, cheering you along. It may have been her time to go, but yours isn't up yet. Live, really live, even if it's painful some days. Choose happiness by choosing to get out into the sun. Exercise through the pain. It will feel like surviving some days, but it will get easier. I am so very sorry for your loss.